After 6 months of living in Italy, I am the most uncomfortable I have ever been in my entire life. 7 months ago, I quit my six-figure engineering job and sold everything. 6 months ago, I flew to Italy to start a new life. In that time, I have gotten married, I've got my residency here in Italy, and I bought a house. So in this video, I want to talk about daily life in the last 6 months, how I got my permanent residency, a lot of the documentation that I had to do, how I bought the house, a high level, because there's another video where we talked more about how we bought a house. General tips if you're thinking about either visiting or moving to Italy, some things you might want to know that I didn't know. I'll make sure to put timestamps, so if there's one specific part that you care about, you can just skip to that part. All right, I want to start out with the most challenging thing that I've gone through since I've been here, and it's something I completely did not expect. I heard about the bureaucracy, I heard about the driving. Obviously, I don't speak the language, so that I knew that was going to be a challenge. But the thing that challenged me the most really has just been how incompetent I feel. And I was not prepared for that at all. I had a high paying job. I was the subject matter expert on my team. I was highly skilled at what I did. And coming here, even basic things have become difficult. Things as simple as going shopping. For example, there's certain items that in the US, I can just go to the store and get no issues. But here, there's certain items, for example, a mask. I wanted to get just like one of those masks that you put on to work on the house. And you have to go to the pharmacy to get one of those. And then to go to the pharmacy, you need to get a number when you go to the pharmacy. And then even when you pay at the pharmacy, you have to have what's called you have to have a codice fiscale and a card that's like a medical card in order to purchase these items. And these are all things that I was not expecting and I didn't realize. It's not that big of a deal, but they all start to add up over time. And just basic things I feel like I don't know how to do. And really, at times, I feel like a child. And one example I'll give is that when we were at the house after we bought it and we hired, somebody to come and fix some of the stuff, they were discussing between them just different things that we could do with the house. And I'm sitting there like a child, like looking back and forth, and they're talking, and then I kind of see them like look at me and then keep talking. And then, of course, after everything's said and done, Ellen translates, okay, this is what happened, here's whatever. And I'm just on the sidelines feeling like a child. It is a very, very humbling experience that driving, getting lost, not knowing where I'm at, just wanting to do very basic things has become a huge challenge. No one thing has been super difficult for me because I kind of expected it. It's just the overall feeling of incompetence has been a real challenge and real humbling for me. Having said that, I heard a quote once that said, comfort is the enemy of growth. I came here to grow. I want to grow. I'm a person of growth. I like that. I don't like to be stagnant. I'm always wanting to challenge myself to do new things, which is one reason why I quit a very comfortable, high-paying job to come live here. It's not the only reason I came to live here, but I knew it was going to be a challenge. And already in the 6 months I've been here, I have grown a ton. Every day it's a challenge for many different things, as I'll talk about later and as we've said in some other videos. But it's definitely worth it. And uncomfortable does not mean unhappy. So let's talk about some general tips, pieces of advice that you may or may not know if you're thinking about either living here or just taking a trip here. Number one, driving here is completely different. There are unspoken rules, and then of course there are fixed rules. And this is all if you're coming from the US or you're used to driving like US conditions. Obviously, if you're from other countries, if you drive on the left side of the road or whatever, this may not apply to you. But driving here, there's just almost another set of rules among the regular set of rules. For example, in the US, a green light, solid green light is just that, a solid green light. And if you have an arrow that's going left to right, obviously it says you can or can't go left to right, green or red. Here, depending on where you're at or the neighborhood, green lights, solid green lights may mean left turn. And then you'll have a straight arrow and maybe a right arrow saying to go straight or right. These are things I did not know. So for example, one time I'm sitting at a light and cars are honking and I'm wondering what's going on because the main light is red that I'm looking at. And there's a small light on the right that has a straight arrow that means obviously straight traffic go. And that main red light is for left turners. I didn't know that. So it's something I learned. It's something small, but it's something to be aware of. In general, like people run red lights here all the time. So you have to be very aware. You cannot be passive when you're driving here. You have to really pay attention. I was told that one of the unwritten rules are if there's a camera, then you can do whatever you want. If there's not a camera, then you have to follow all the rules. Now, of course, my recommendation is to follow all the rules all the time, camera or no camera. And that's what I tried to do. But many other people driving around you don't do that. So you have to be hyper vigilant. At least I do, in making sure that everybody's going to follow the rules. And if they're not, what are you going to do? Italy is a whole nother driving experience. So another tip I've learned in the last 6 months is to always ask questions and follow up questions and never assume that whatever it is that you're doing is finished. And I will give a perfect example. And this is only one or two examples of many times this has happened in just 6 months. Today, I just finally got my ID card here. Which is different than your permesso di soggiorno, which I also got last month. I thought that once I got my residency here, then that's it. Okay, you get your residency, you get a piece of paper. No, you get your residency. I got approved. Then you have to go pick up your residency card, which I did. When I went to go get my ID card, after getting my residency card, I was told by the lady at the counter that I didn't register my residency card online. Thankfully, she was nice because it's not always this way. She could have just sent me away and said no. And I had to make an appointment to see this lady to register, to apply for my ID card. She was nice enough to register me online right there at the counter. It wasn't busy, thankfully. And also, by the way, the appointment that I got, I was able to get right away. But any appointment after, I got it within several days. But all the appointments after that were a month in advance. So if for whatever reason I couldn't get the appointment that day, that specific day, I would have had to wait a month before I could even apply for my ID card. And like I said, she was nice enough to register me online and then just told me, make sure that when you get your ID card, you also register your digital ID, because if for whatever reason the police or somebody stops you and I give them my ID, so not only if I have my residency card, I also have to have my ID card. But if I haven't registered my ID card, I could still get in trouble. Even though I have those two physical cards, I need to register both cards. Those are just two things that I did not know. And again, she was nice enough. And when they gave me my permesso di soggiorno, the card, they just said, okay, thanks for coming by. No one told me I had to register. And then also, she was nice enough to tell me that I had to register the ID card. But if I didn't, I probably wouldn't have done that. So the point is, make sure you always ask, is that it? Is there anything else I need to do? Am I good to go? Any questions that you have, maybe try and come up with questions beforehand. Go online, go on Ask AI, go on forums, do whatever you can beforehand and afterhand to make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's buying a house, applying for residency, trying to get a license, buying cappuccino, make sure, have I done everything? Because a lot of times there are extra things that you need to do. And then if you don't, you can be either penalized for it or you're not able to do the next thing, whatever it is that you need to do without those things. And there's many more examples I could give about that one topic. All right, so let's talk about paperwork. So I talked about this a little bit in a different video, but some things, if you're going to move here or do any business here, you're definitely going to need certain items. So one is your codice fiscale. That should be the very first thing that you should do the moment that you land here. Go get your codice fiscale. I've talked about it again in another video, but you can't open a bank account, you can't do business other than just going to a store and buying things without that. One thing, if you're going to move here and have any kind of long-term residency, you need something called a tessera sanitaria, and that will also have your codice fiscale on it. And that is also necessary because when I went to open up a bank account, I had a codice fiscale, but they said, no, you need your tessera sanitaria, which is a medical card with your codice fiscale on it. And they told me it was necessary. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But these are just things that we didn't know. When we first applied to get a bank account, they just said we needed the codice fiscale. And then later they said, no, we need my medical card that has my code, the physical card that has my codice fiscale on it, which is just a medical card. So we had to apply for that and do that. Another example of always ask follow-up questions. Another thing that you have to do if you want to buy a house is if you want to apply for residency, is you have to establish residency first. And that sounds like a catch-22. How do you apply for a residency if you don't already live here? But what happened, at least what we did, is that my wife already owns a flat here. And so we had to register that I was living here with her. Even though I didn't have permanent residency, I was here on my visa, and we had to apply to say, where am I living? Before you can actually apply for residency. And it's kind of like, well, how do you apply for residency? I don't honestly know how it all works. I just know that before you can even apply for residency, you have to communicate that you're living somewhere. And my advice to you is, as soon as you land here, wherever it is that you're going to be staying, whether it's an Airbnb for long term or 3 months or however long your visa is. So as soon as you land, if you're planning on applying for any kind of residency, register online where you're living, whether it's an Airbnb with a family member, it doesn't matter. Do that immediately because you have to have a place of residence before you can apply for permanent residency. It's weird, but you have to do it. And that ended up being a bit of an issue for us. Also, if you are buying a house here for the first time, you don't have to pay as much taxes. It's a little bit of a benefit to buy a house. And because this is my first time, once I established my residency here where we're living in Turin, but we're going to move to the new house eventually. And when I move to that new house, I have to actually establish new residency there. Otherwise, it looks like I own two houses, which I don't. I only own the one. So I have to actually change that residency. So if you're living here in like a temporary residency before you buy another house, make sure that when you move from your flat or Airbnb into your actual house that you bought, that you update where you were registered. That's very important. And that's one of those things that you can skip and just not know. Also, I think I said this in the house buying video, but just understand that if you don't speak Italian, you're going to need a translator and you're going to need something called a notaio to kind of do all the paperwork. They have something similar in the US, but not quite. And they're quite expensive. I think ours cost us, I don't know, around 3,000-4,000 euros, something like that. Just know that it's going to be pretty expensive for them to kind of do everything for you. So those are just some tips that I have over the last 6 months. 6 months is not a long time. I feel like I've learned a lot, but if there's any questions that you have about traveling in Italy, moving to Italy, getting residency here, leave them in the comments. If there's something I'm leaving out, I'd be happy to give my experience. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give official advice, but if you have any questions, just let us know in the comments. So another tip for us is that we got married in Denmark and we originally wanted to get married in Italy. We had been preparing for about 4 months, all of our paperwork while I was still living in the US and Elena was here. We said this also in our Getting Married in Denmark video, but if you haven't watched that, basically, once we got to Italy, we realized that it was going to take much longer than we were wanting to get married. After we had been preparing. Once we got here, we had to make an appointment that we weren't aware of, and that was going to be like 5 months before we could make that appointment. So we found Denmark as we could get married there relatively quickly. So we got married in Denmark, we did all of that, and when we got back, we registered everything. But one thing that we didn't know is that in Italy, you have to declare whether your goods are separate or together. And that's not a comfortable topic all the time when it comes to getting married, but I guess for separation purposes, if you get married and all of your property is community property, then you kind of split everything down the middle, 50-50 if you were to get divorced. Hopefully not. Or you have to declare that you separate your goods. And that's one thing that we had to do because Elena owns a home here and then I bought a home here. But if we have our goods together, it's like she owns two homes. So we didn't know that. So when we got married, it defaults to you own everything together. So that's another step that we had to take to basically say, no, our property is separate. Now, of course, this is a unique issue to us because she actually already owned a home and we would have had to pay more taxes if we had a community property. So just in case you aren't aware, if you do choose to get married in or you're already married out of Italy and you want to register your marriage here, you have to declare with an anographer, right? Yes. Okay. You have to declare with an anographer whether you want your property to be community or if you want it to be separate. So let's move on to some of the good things. I love the bread here. The bread is so good. Like the crust on pizza is so flavorful. I feel like I could just eat it all by itself. You know, I've fallen in love with focaccia. It's kind of like a bread. It's like almost like a pizza crust bread that you can do different things with. You can make a sandwich out of it. Anyways, look up focaccia if you're interested. But I'm falling in love with focaccia. It's really, really good here. Of course, the pizza is good. Pasta is on another level. The cappuccino here, again, it's kind of like, duh, the cappuccino is good. But oh my goodness, I absolutely love cappuccino. I would get it all the time if it wasn't against the rules to drink cappuccinos after 11, which of course I do sometimes. But the cappuccino is incredible. I love that I can drink just coffee. I don't really need a lot of sugar or other cream or anything like that. Just a little bit of milk. And it's fantastic. I love that wine is super cheap, you know, and you can just get a bottle of wine for like €2. And that's normal. I think yesterday we went to the store and we bought a bottle of wine for like €1.39. And that was like, and it was a good bottle. It wasn't even bad. I love how close we are to everything. I have a friend who lives in Germany and her and her husband were coming back from a trip from Asia and they had a long layover in Milan, which is about 2 hours from here. So Ellen and I got on a train, went to Milan, had lunch with them, came back and then went to a concert that night. and just to say, oh yeah, I went to Milan for a couple of hours, had lunch with a friend. I mean, to me, that's incredible. We went into Il Duomo while we were there. We saw one of the most iconic churches, which we'd actually been to in September. But just to go and spend an afternoon in Milan at this amazing church and just have lunch and then go home and then go to a concert like it's a normal day. In September, we went to Genoa, so we went to the coast. We drove up to Aosta, which is right next to France. Elena went to France in September. I couldn't leave because I had my ricevuta. I couldn't leave the country at the time while I was waiting for my residency. Everything is just so close here without even flying anywhere. There's just so much to do and see. I personally love history, art, and culture, and it is just everywhere here, of course. This area has been inhabited for thousands of years, and everywhere you go, you can just accidentally trip over Roman ruins and just amazing art. It's phenomenal to see like paintings that are older than the US itself just hanging behind someone's desk. It's very, very normal here, but I definitely have not gotten used to all of the rich history and culture here, and I hope I never do. One thing that's small, I think, but I really love is that there's water everywhere. And what I mean by that is not just rivers and things like that. I mean, they just have this like fountains that have drinkable water that's incredibly good. You can just bring your water bottles around and fill them up, and they're everywhere almost. So that's something I didn't expect, but I really like it. Something that's been really good for me is that every day I wake up inspired. When I was in the US and I had my corporate job, it can be a real slog. Just the life here, it's inspiring, and I wake up every day and I feel motivated to continue to grow. One thing I also really like about living here specifically, I don't know about the rest of Italy, although I assume it's somewhat similar, is it's very warm here. I have been welcomed by Elena's friends. Even like, for example, one of the contractors that we hired to fix our house and work on our house, after our second meeting, we were saying goodbye, and he gave me like the classic kiss. And it's just, as an American, we don't greet or say goodbye in that way. And even here with strangers, you don't normally do that. But just after 2 times of meeting this person, it was like, okay, I'm leaving. Thank you. Have a good day. And then you kiss your contractor. It's something I'm not used to, but I'm starting to get used to. And I really enjoy how warm everybody is here. Okay. So of course, everything's not all roses. Things are difficult sometimes too. And some of the things I've already mentioned, like the overwhelming feeling of being incompetent is difficult. It's not easy. Some other things that are just a challenge that I kind of mentioned already is, of course, not knowing the language. I practice with Elena. When I go out with her friends, we speak. It's still difficult to sit into a 2-hour conversation and only understand maybe 40% of what's being said, but it's a challenge. But I do like the language. Knowing Spanish helps some, but sometimes it actually makes it harder, especially when speaking, because I confuse words or whatever. But that's the language is a challenge, but one that I'm definitely up for. And it feels good when I'm in a situation and I can understand a lot more. So I just have to keep working on speaking. One thing that's been really difficult is my sense of direction. Now, this might just be because I grew up like in the countryside, like in a small town in Arizona where there's not a lot of big buildings, a lot of open space and mountains. And here there's just buildings. It's that typical urban jungle. So my sense of direction is very difficult to kind of figure out. And the streets are not necessarily straight, straight crosses. The streets just kind of go in all squiggly lines, and I can get turned around really, really quickly. And that was one thing for sure in the beginning, and it still happens sometimes now, where I'm just walking in a direction and Elena's looking at me like, where are you going? And I swear we're supposed to go one way, and I've completely gotten turned around because just a lot of the buildings look the same, and because it's not easy to know where north, south, east, and west is, especially when you get turned around. So my sense of direction is way off. Another kind of, I would say, stereotype is just things just take longer. I'm really learning that with our new house. Sometimes it's bureaucracy. Sometimes it's just that people are busy and there's not enough workers to go around to do the things that you need. Sometimes people just don't know. People are confused. If you go to one place and ask for something, you may not get it because they may not know the answer. But at the end of the day, I just know that things just take longer. One challenge also that I was not expecting, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. So quitting your job, selling everything, and kind of living and figuring out what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis sounds fun, and it is fun. But a big challenge has been really no days off. So not only am I more uncomfortable than I've ever been because of the things I've already mentioned, but also I'm busier than I've ever been. And that's without having a full-time job, or at least a full-time job like going into an office. We work every single day. We're doing something every single day. It takes a lot of work to even just make this video. I don't know if you can see all the stuff I don't know if you showed, like all the lights and all the setup. Just to do this video, all the lighting, and we had to do testing for our audios. We have multiple cameras, we have the lighting. It took us, a good 3 hours to kind of set all this up. And then of course now we are recording it, and then I'm going to edit it now. That's fine. I like doing this. All these, any of the YouTube videos that we're doing, whether they're good or not, because we're beginners, we're just learning. It takes time, but there's other projects that we're working on too that just take time. There's no days off now. When you go to an office, it's like, I'm at the office, I'm out of the office, I'm home, I can do whatever I want. And now, yes, we may go into the city center and have fun in the city center, but we'll come home and we'll work until 9, 10 o'clock at night and the next day. And I lose days. I don't know what day it is. If it's Sunday, it doesn't matter. And we're working. So we just finished a video that we haven't published yet that took us a week and a day to film everything, but basically a week. And we just, every single day we were up 6 o'clock in the morning, we were going out and filming and doing different things. And then we'd come home and I was editing until 9, 10 o'clock at night for 7 days in a row. It's a challenge and I like it. And it's easy to say I can just take a day off whenever I want, which is true. But now that everything is on us and I'm not just getting some steady paycheck from a company, I'm much more motivated to work more. And it's like, I don't know when to turn the buttons off. I don't know when to say, okay, take a break. It's actually much more challenging than I thought it would be to just say, oh, I wish I could just take off whenever I want. And I can, but now I know every moment that I'm not working on something is a moment that something that we need to do is not getting done. So, and it's hard to not feel guilty if we do take a day off. It doesn't matter if we worked 7, 8 days in a row without stopping, 12, 13-hour days. We feel bad when we take a day off. So definitely an unexpected challenge, finding that balance, and we're still trying to figure it out, but I'm enjoying the process. So that's been the last 6 months. I'm gonna make a video later about why I quit my job. I actually filmed me packing up my stuff when I was in New Hampshire, driving across the country, saying goodbye to my family in Arizona. I filmed a lot of that, but I didn't know what I was doing. I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and I just haven't edited the video to do that. But eventually I'm gonna talk about why I quit my job. I'm going to talk about, some of the other projects that we're working on. The biggest question that most people have is like, how are we making money? Like, what are we doing? And that's going to come. We're going to talk about that. There's just certain things that aren't finished yet that we want to finish before we put it all out there. But we're working hard. We're enjoying what we're doing. I have zero regrets. I feel incredibly motivated every day with this stuff we're doing. So my only encouragement is just that if you're interested in doing something like this, it doesn't have to be Italy. Work on it. You can do it. So anyways, we have more videos coming out soon in the next couple of days, and we hope to finish this other project that we were working on last month. We have more travel plans that we're going to do. Obviously, the holidays are coming up. We have videos for that. So we have tons coming up. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, and also updates on the house, which we're also, continually doing things like that, stay tuned and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.